Height. Oh, you short king, stand up. Hey. Well, I guess height actually matters a lot more than you think. It's crazy how things you can't control actually hold kind of the most weight in life. Kind of a cruel thing. But you just gotta play. You gotta just play the cards you dealt, man. That's all you can really do at the end of the day. Like, real rap attack. How height predicts your success? Let's get into it.
Joe Biden became U.S. president. He's 1.83 meters, or 6 foot. 4 years later, he was succeeded by Donald Trump, who's 1.90, or 6 foot 3. Abraham Lincoln himself was 1.93, or 6 foot 4. These were all tall presidents. If we look at the height of all the US presidents over the years, we see two things. First, most of them were taller than the average male height at the time. And secondly, it seems that their heights have been going up over the years. Why are US presidents so tall? And why are their heights getting bigger? Do you need to be tall to become successful? I looked at the scientific research on how your height impacts your life. And I investigated how height predicts your sports performance, your health, your dating life, and your career. I'm gonna use 2 short characters and 2 tall characters to show how they're impacted by height in these 4 areas. But what exactly is a short or tall person? People come in many different sizes. In the US, doors are typically 2.03 meters tall. Let's see how people from different countries fit through these doors. The country with the shortest women is Guatemala, with an average female height of 1.51 meters. But that's just the average height. There are shorter women in Guatemala and around the world. For example, Simone Biles, an American who's the most decorated gymnast in history, is 1.42 meters tall. As for men, Timor-Leste has the shortest average height.
That's technically like a midget, right? If you're under like 5 foot, you're like technically a dwarf or something, right? Or a midget? I don't know, let me know.
At 1.60 meters. In the US, the average height is 1.61 for women and
didn't know that. I thought the average height was like 5'4".
1.75 for men.
I did know that. Sounds about right. 5'9".
The tallest country in the world is the Netherlands, with an average of 1.70 for women and 1.84 for men.
Whoa, that's actually insane to have an average height of 6 foot. That's actually really crazy, bro. Like if in the United States the average height was 6 foot, yeah, bro, motherfuckers would be tall like average. Like that's the mean height. Being 6 feet tall, that's actually kind of crazy.
Roughly 1 in every 5 Gen Z.
Wait, but what about like South Sudan though? Like, they gotta be? Their average height gotta be taller than 6 feet.
Are at least 1.90 meters. NBA players are 2 meters tall on average. And Zach Edey, the tallest active NBA player, is 2.24 meters tall. If you want to check the average height of your country, you can pause the video now and check the table on screen. I also asked my audience about their heights. It turns out they're 1.67 and 1.79 meters tall on average for women and men respectively.
Yeah, but let's be real, these numbers are skewed. Most people, I would subtract 2 inches on both of them again, because especially for men, because most men lie about their height. They don't disclose their real height without shoes, because that's really all that. I mean, most people see you in shoes, but at the end of the day, most guys in particular lie about their height, especially if they're under 6 feet.
Assuming we only include the adults. For characters, I'm going to use the nationalities of the shortest and tallest countries, and I'm going to give them typical names: Willem, Willemijn, Manuel, and Maria. To highlight the difference in height, I'm going to assume Maria and Willem are a bit shorter and taller than their country's average. So, who has an advantage? Let's start with sports. As you can imagine, it helps to be tall if you want to make it to the NBA. But being short can be an advantage for other sports. As you get bigger, the physics of your body change. Some features of your body grow proportionally as you get taller. If you're 20% taller, your reach is about 20% longer, which is helpful in basketball. But other features are different. Because our bodies have complicated shapes to model mathematically, it's easier to explain it with cubes. Take these 2 concrete blocks. One is twice as long as the other. Blocks of concrete can withstand more force if they're bigger, and the strength of the block is directly proportional to its cross-sectional area. If the cube on the right is 2 times longer, then its cross-sectional area is 4 times larger. The area of a cube grows to the power of 2 relative to the length, making the second cube 4 times stronger. The same principle applies to our bodies. In theory, if Willem is 20% taller than Manuel, then his strength could potentially be 44% bigger, although the real number depends on other factors. As a result, in sports where raw strength matters, being tall helps. That includes sports where you throw things like javelin throw, and fighting sports. In boxing, strength and reach matters so much that athletes are divided based on weight classes. A short fighter would have a hard time beating a well-trained, larger fighter. What happened?
You got
You've been out for days, and we're not sure you're gonna make it. What happened? You suffered a severe lack of problem-solving skills. You're going to need Brilliant.org, the sponsor of this video. Brilliant is a platform for learning math. Computer terms, their strength relative to their body weight is lower. That's important for sports where you have to lift your body weight, like climbing. Your linear momentum, which describes the force required to slow down an object, also grows to the power of 3. But the strength of the muscles used to stop your movement only grows to the power of 2. If you're tall, it's harder to stop your motion, but also harder for other people to stop you, which is useful in sports like American football. As you get bigger, your rotational momentum increases to the power of 4, and your rotational inertia increases to the power of 5. Rotational momentum and rotational inertia are complicated words to describe how hard it is to speed up or slow down the rotation of an object. Shorter people tend to be able to change their rotation speeds faster, giving them an important advantage in sports like gymnastics, which probably explains why Simone Biles is so short. So while taller athletes have an advantage in reach and raw strength, shorter athletes tend to be quicker, more agile, and strong for their size.
Yeah.
What about our health? Is it healthy to be tall?
I feel like it's more healthy
A study
to be
looked at the
short.
heights and health of male conscripts in rural Spain and found that for the men born between 1835 and 1869, tall men were living almost 80 years longer than short men. Why were short men dying younger? Is being short unhealthy? This is a trick question. Your height depends on 2 things: your genetics and your environment, and that especially includes your nutrition and diseases during childhood. In Western societies, it's estimated that these environmental factors account for about 20% of the variation in heights, and that in lower income countries the number is probably even higher. Our heights reflect our living standards. These shorter Spanish men were not dying earlier because they were short, they were dying earlier because they had worse health and living conditions.
Right.
If we look at the average male heights per country and plot them against the Human Development Index, which measures the quality of life of countries, we see that countries with a higher Human Development Index tend to have taller people. And if we plot the height against childhood mortality, we get the opposite correlation. Disease during childhood can limit growth, and countries with a higher child mortality rate tend to have shorter people. As living standards increased around the world, so did our heights. In the space of 100 years, the world average height increased about 8 centimeters for women and 9 centimeters for men. So, health tends to increase height. But how does height impact your health? Tall people tend to have harder falls. If you drop a very small cube of stone on the floor, it will most likely bounce off the ground. If you drop a very large cube of stone, it will probably break. The impact of your fall increases to the power of 4 relative to the height. That would be fine if there would be enough surface area to dissipate the impact, but your surface area only increases to the power of 2. If Willem hits the ground, he will suffer an impact with a concentration of energy 2 times bigger than Maria's. And that's assuming the impact is evenly distributed by the body. If the impact is concentrated on a small area, let's say the corner of a curb, then the impact could be almost 4 times bigger. Therefore, shorter people tend to have a lower risk of injury during falls and car accidents. The torque generated when you bend over increases to the power of 4 relative to your height, but the counter torque generated by your muscles only increases to the power of 3. As a result, taller people tend to have more back problems. And due to the proportions of heart muscles relatively to your body weight, tall people also tend to have a lower heart rate, which is a risk reduction factor for cardiovascular diseases. And because of their body mass to surface area ratios, it's easier for tall people to stay warm in the cold, but that also puts them at a higher risk of heat stroke. There are both pros and cons for being short or tall, and if we look at the research on life expectancy, we find mixed results. However, some research indicates that taller people are more likely to get cancer, and in the end, it seems...
I'm curious about this dating.
This chart shows the height of US men measured by doctors in physical exams.
Alright, so yeah, average 5'9". Okay, 6 feet, 6'1". Okay.
Average US male height in 2023 was about 1.75 meters or 5'9". But if we compare this line with the height self-reported by US men, something interesting happens. Firstly, the distribution is skewed to the right. On average, men exaggerated their height to be 2.4 centimeters or about 1 inch taller than their actual height. Secondly, when we get to the 5'11" mark, we get a dip followed by a bump at 6 foot, suggesting that many men who are just below 6 foot add an inch to their height. There might be some truth behind the memes, although women also exaggerated their heights by 1.7 centimeters. It seems people do exaggerate their height, especially men. But do women really prefer taller men? The papers I found do seem to indicate that. It seems that women prefer taller partners and men prefer shorter partners, with this preference being stronger for women. However, these papers also indicate that, firstly, people prefer heights that are somewhat similar to their own heights, so Maria would probably be more likely to be interested in someone with Manuel's height rather than Willem's. And secondly, this paper
that's cap, at least in the United States. 4'11" chicks want 6'11" niggas, bro. That's kind of, I'm kind of being OD with it, but like, height definitely, it matters a lot more than you think. I'm a legit 5'11", no shoes. I'm 6 foot with shoes on. I'm not tall and I'm not short. I have a little brother who's 6'2" or 6'3". Didn't play any sports. I used to hoop and play basketball. So the main reason I wanted to get taller was for basketball. But then I didn't really realize how much height mattered until about a year ago when I'm just getting bombarded with all this shit like girls just only want guys over 6 feet. You know what I'm saying? But to be honest, there's a lot of people that lie about their height. At 5'11" without shoes on, I'm legit taller than most people. But there's probably like a whole nother 20, maybe like 15% of men that are actually like definitely taller than me. So, but in general though, walking out and about, I'm taller than most people. And I'm not even tall. So the crazy thing is just there's a thing like height inflation. It's actually a real thing. A lot of guys saying they're 6 foot when they're not. I could easily say that I am, but it's just not the truth. I'm not 6 feet tall. But it's just a lot of guys like to add an inch or whatnot because it gets the brown. Well, who gives a shit, bro? At the end of the day, bro, like an inch doesn't really mean shit in the long run, anyways. All this shit is just like societal, like it's like a ranking system, like if you made it to the coveted 6 foot or above, like you're everything's gonna be easier for you. That's not the case. There's guys that are tall that still struggle with dating. At the end of the day, like it's not the end all be all. It's not going to be the solution to your problems. So you can just get that out your head. If I were taller. Only time that would help you was in like sports or whatnot. But like, and maybe dating and stuff. But let's be real. Most of these girls be capped, bro. They'll fuck with guys that are under 6 feet tall, bro.
There were no differences in how often short men went on dates compared to tall men. So, although shorter men and taller women do seem to face some challenges in the dating world, the effect of height is, quote, modest and just one of many factors that impact attraction. And how does height impact your career? Was height important for these men to become US presidents? We've seen how height is impacted by your nutrition and health. Since your socioeconomic situation impacts these two, it impacts your height as well. People from privileged socioeconomic backgrounds are more likely to be tall, and height has been used as an indicator of wealth.
No, 100%, bro. Like if you go to like a college campus, because college campuses, especially like a school where like it costs some bread to go there, there's gonna be a lot taller people than you see just out and about. The tallest people I ever saw was when I was in school, when I was back in college. That's where I seen like a conglomerate of like all the tallest people. If anything, that's where I felt the shortest was in college because there were so many tall motherfuckers, bro. Like because they all came from affluent families. That's the thing. Same thing. I went to a rich high school. I went to like a high school with a bunch of rich kids. A lot of them are tall, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people with money, they're probably a lot better at planning and stuff. So they probably intentionally marry someone that's like, a decent stature, same vice versa, so their kids can be tall. And on top of that, they probably just have top-notch nutrition. Like, I feel like you can really greatly, obviously genetics play a part in it, but I think you can add like 2 to 3 inches past, like maybe 2 to 3 inches, like to a child's height, just by what you're feeding them, bro. If you're feeding them like all the proper stuff. Okay, maybe 2 to 3 inches is a little cap, but like 1 to 2 inches, I think you can add to a kid's height if you're like giving them all the supplements and the nutrition that they need. Because at the end of the day, most Americans in their diet actually, they have a nutrient deficiency. So if you can provide a diet to your kid with no nutritional deficiencies, there's no reason why your kid couldn't even be taller than you. Because if I ever have a son or whatnot, I'd hope he's taller than me, because it would just help him. I just didn't get the height. The height gene skipped me, and hopefully it goes to like if I have any kids, hopefully it goes to like a son or whatnot, and hopefully he's over 6 feet, because it will just make life easier for him. Let's be real here, especially with dating and stuff. In the career aspect, I think height does matter, because people see height as like a status symbol, and it's more like a face, you know what I mean? Height doesn't really matter like that when it comes down to the nitty gritty, when the rubber meets the road, but it's more of a societal, it's a societal ranking. It's more of like it's like a socioeconomic class. You know what I'm saying?
Quality. For example, another study that looked at Spanish conscripts between the 1870s and year 1930 found that highly qualified non-manual workers were on average 3.6 centimeters taller than agricultural workers. So, when we see a positive correlation between height and career success, we have to keep in mind that it could also be explained by the privileged background of taller people, who may have had access to better education, nutrition, and healthcare in childhood. Yep. Having said this, even when researchers adjust the data for these factors, they find some advantages favoring taller people. It seems taller people are perceived as more competent, employable, and healthy, they are seen as more leader-like, and they tend to have a higher self-esteem and social esteem. On the other hand, some research suggests that being very tall or very short does not have a big impact on how other people perceive you. I left out some details of the research to keep the video light, but in short, there is some evidence of bias favoring taller people in careers.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few places where there's a stigma of being too tall. It's not really a thing. So height inflation, physique inflation, economic inflation, how is anyone supposed to keep up? Well, I mean, the height inflation is really just a lot of people lying about their height. In conclusion, shorter people are shorter than taller people. Eye-opening, brother. Your height is one metric in life. It was out of your control the moment you were born. Don't let it dictate your life. 1,000%, man. It's easy to get caught up in the things you can't control, and that's why like height and stuff is like such a highly talked about topic, because it's something that it's just something that no one really could control. I would never understand contemporary media being obsessed with height. The dating section of the video was very funny and subversive of the facts. Whoa, guys, it's only a modest effect, and it seems like I can't disprove it. What the fuck? All right. I'm 5'8", and the girl I like rejected me because I was short and wanted someone 6 foot. If you're a tall person, you'll live a good life, and if you're a short person, you'll live a long life. I guess that's a fair type. Height is 80% genetics. Is judging us mocking others based on height racism? Well, this video is a bit of cope. Height is a major predictor of success in both sports, dating, and career. Everyone knows that. Most just don't have the guts to admit it. And I agree with that guy, bro. Height does matter quite a bit, bro. So, yeah, I guess we've been blackpilled yet again. You're being politically correct and plain and say tall people are on average more successful and more viable in the dating pool, period. Yeah, 1,000%. You know, me just barely missing the cutoff for 6 foot. I will forever be an incel loser. And if you're under 6 foot, it is over for you too, just like me. So enjoy the rest of your day and let's incel together. I'm just playing, guys, but yeah, man, you just gotta play the hands you dealt, bro. At the end of the day, it sucks that people judge you on superficial things instead of your actual ability, but it's just the world we live in, man. You know, and a lot of people can't even think critical or deep anyway, so don't even trip about it, bro.